Hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of The Last Save Point. I'm Piro.
And I'm Calc Ninja.
So the first thing we want to get out of the way is to tell everybody that the website is down. It was not some sort of mistake that
No.
there was an error when you tried to load the page.
No, it's down. It's currently transferring registrars. I went from one to another, and actually got some legit web hosting. But the transfer process is taking a while. I've been talking to tech support though, and we're getting it sorted out. Hopefully by next week. By the next episode, we can have it up. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description. Could be up when you view it, could not be. But we'll check.
The important thing to note is that the twitch.tv
Right.
/ The Last Save Point is live, and so is the live stream.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put descriptions to those in the bar below. The links will be down there. We'll also have links to like Facebook,
Twitter.
Twitter, yeah, you can like us there. You can follow us on Twitter. I think that covers all of our bases as far as social media goes.
You follow us.
You follow us
right now.
It's in your best interest.
Takes you like 20 seconds. I don't understand.
You just click. I mean, the link's down there for the lazy. If you're lazy, you click the link. Done.
Talking to you. Get off the couch.
Get off the couch. Do it.
Okay, the first thing we want to do is what are we playing this week? And let's start with you. What have you been playing?
Well, the SSX demo came out last night.
I took a moment to play that demo.
It's fun. It's fun. I mean, the gameplay is pretty tight. I was kind of confused at first because I didn't play the tutorial. My friend did. But
you didn't miss much.
No, I picked it up really quickly. You know, you use the face buttons on the controller, whether it be like X, Y, B, A, or square, triangle, circle, X.
Yeah, it's just like the way you remember. You're grabbing parts of the board, flying through the air, you're spinning, 6-7 times around. But they added differences on how you're actually grabbing now. You opt through hand placement about what you're going to do. You can also do the old way where you just randomly grab a button, but now you have the option of using both hands, your left hand, your right hand, on which
side of the board you want too.
Yeah, it adds deeper depth to the game.
Yeah, there is some depth there. I mean, at first it looks really basic, but as you play around with it, you can definitely tell there's some depth within the game.
Yeah, based on the level structure, it seems like there's a lot to learn about how they actually built their levels.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's one way to go down like there used to be.
I do have one gripe about the game though, and it's the graphics.
Up
until you hit the mountain, when you're in the helicopter and you're seeing the introduction, the game really doesn't look that great.
You didn't like the punching motions and the fake kicks?
Yeah, no, not so much.
With those early this generation graphics?
No, but as soon as you hit the mountain, everything looks much better.
Like it's snow. You're carving a path in the snow. It seems all right.
It seems okay. Everything's moving too fast to really care about the graphics.
Like, oh, okay, I can spin right now. Spin.
But other than that, I haven't really been playing much. It's still Marvel, still Street Fighter. I did pick up Asura's Wrath last night. It is still shrink wrapped, but I will be streaming that on Twitch, so you can check that out. If it's a short game, so you might have to catch it on like the video on demand section. But I don't know. It looks fun. I'm excited.
I just realized that he looks sort of like Evil Ryu.
He does, yeah. Oh, that DLC where he's fighting Ryu, and it looks like a Street Fighter game.
I thought that was I thought that was an allusion to him being in Street Fighter 2.
No, it's DLC for this game.
Oh, why would I want to fight Ryu?
Why not?
I don't know. It just seems like an odd thing. Why don't I fight Akuma?
You're Goku with 6 arms. Why wouldn't you want to fight Ryu?
6 Armaku?
6 Armaku.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, what have you been playing, Piro?
I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 13 too. I finally got my platinum, and it's basically just been waiting for more DLC, which is supposed to come out next week. Took me about 124, 125 hours, which is about what the last one took me to platinum.
It's a long game.
125 hours and a little slice of my soul that I'll never get back.
So which one's easier to platinum, 13 or 13-2?
It seems like 13-2 is a lot less of a grind to finish because they don't have the upgrade system on the weapons like they did in the previous one, where you basically had to grind on a single enemy for
money,
60, 70 hours.
Right. Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
There's a reason why I haven't platinumed that game.
You barely beat the game.
I know. I beat the game like a month ago.
But I beat the game on Sunday. You guys are probably seeing this on Thursday right now, but I was still playing it on Monday and Tuesday because even though the DLC is coming out, you have the opportunity for more characters for your party. So you want to have better and better monsters. It's sort of like Pokemon, where you're leveling them up. You're giving them experience. You're making better monsters. They have, secondary abilities that you can stack on.
And you can customize them too, can't you?
Yeah, you're allowed to put one item on top of them that you can't move.
Like a top hat.
Or is it the top hat goes at a weird angle? It's like this and not straight up and down.
Right.
Like anything you put on their head is on the side.
It's weird.
Yeah, like even when you put it's like swords and stuff, it like goes right on their back.
Huh.
And it's not to scale.
Right. Oh, of course not. So you can have like a giant ass sword on like a Moogle.
Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
You can have Cloud's sword on a Moogle.
I'm surprised that's not in there. There's so many of these ornament things too that I was just going around. I'm like, oh, I need that one.
Look at that one. Look at that one. Look at that one. Yeah.
Yeah. If you really like the game, it's worth platinum to find out all the paradox endings, which are the alternate endings for fulfilling different requirements. But I'm happy that I beat the game. Now I need something else to play.
You're done with it. You can play Asura's Wrath when I'm done with it.
I don't have a month.
Oh, my bad. I'll finish it like tonight or tomorrow or something. So the next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to dive right in, is the digital distribution of games on day one, along with a full retail release, but with no difference in price. An example is like cheaper games at brick and mortar stores than being online, and an example of that is Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. You can go into GameStop and you can get that brand new for $20, or you can get it on the Xbox Live Marketplace for $30. But there's no difference. One you get a physical disc, one you don't.
Yeah, why are you paying more for
a license?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You if you get the physical copy, you actually get to get it. You have it permanently,
right.
And there's never going to be an error where
right.
you don't have that copy
right.
on your hard drive anymore.
And I mean, I don't want to admit it, but it looks like this is the way the game industry is going. They're going more towards these digital downloads. I mean, you can see it on the PC. It's been there for years. Where you buy something on Amazon and then you get a digital code that you activate on Steam. You don't ever actually get the physical copy of the disc.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where I think it's really odd when people are buying like PC games physically.
Right? Yeah, it's like why did you buy a box for that?
You're like, well, I wanted the collector's edition stuff. I'm like, isn't most of that stuff digital anyway?
Right? Yeah.
Shh.
Digital art book, digital soundtrack.
You scammed me. Why don't you just say we're going to scam you?
Right. I mean, I really don't understand why they're doing this, especially with the limitations in hardware right now. You can't exactly give yourself a terabyte hard drive in your PS3.
You can.
Well, you can. I mean, well, on the Xbox, you
yeah,
can.
on the Xbox, it's much different.
Yeah. I mean, with the limitations in memory. I mean, the Wii. The Wii's a great example of this. When they came out and when Nintendo came out and said, only like hardcore geeks need more memory than what comes stock on the Wii.
Or if you ever want to download some games.
Right. Like I filled up my virtual console within like 3 months of having that thing. It's a dust collector now, but I can't download anymore because I have too many games on there. And I think that's a big issue that's going to have to be addressed. There's going to have to be a way to expand memory.
Well, the huge problem isn't necessarily the limitation on memory. It's that the games are getting huge for a full download.
True, yeah.
Especially on the PS3, where you're actually downloading higher res versions some of the time.
Right.
You're like I had Mass Effect 2. I actually downloaded it from the PlayStation Store. I may or may not have been sharing that with somebody. But it was, I think it was at least 6 gigabytes. And if you have the normal console and you're downloading games, let's say you only have 120 gigabyte hard drive, that's a 20th of your space.
Yep. And
you're not counting your saves and your installs. Like Asura's Wrath right here. It says it has an install space of 1 gig.
Right. That's another gig gone.
I don't know what they expect to happen. We need a better solution for the next set of consoles, but hard drive space is getting a lot cheaper.
Right.
But knowing them, they'll end up probably going to solid state drives.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be amazing, but it's still a limited amount of space.
Yeah, there's still so much limitation. And the other thing that bugs me too is the pricing. I mean, we touched on it earlier, but the pricing of these digital games, they're the same price. You're not getting the deals you're getting when you're buying them from a brick and mortar store, or even Amazon. Like Amazon, if you pre-order something, you get a gift card most of the time.
Yeah, it seems like every retailer has a day one deal. Like it's either
Right.
$10 off, $10 gift card. What was it? A couple weeks ago, all the games that came out had a $20 gift card at Target.
Yeah. Yep.
You're never going to get that sort of deal online.
Online, right? I mean, when you buy it from like the marketplace or the PlayStation Store, you don't get those same kinds of deals, and it's
you
off.
probably never will.
Right.
The only exception I've ever seen is the being a PlayStation Plus member,
Right.
where they give you a discount sometimes. Like the Grand Theft Auto 4 Complete Collection
Right.
was released last week on PSN. It was $30. I think it's $30 in stores. It's $30, $40. But if you're a PlayStation Plus member, it was only like $23.
Yeah.
But I don't. We've all seen games that are like that where they're $20 in store 1 week, and you're never going to get that deal
Right.
for your digital copy.
Right. It's always going to be a flat price.
And I think it's partly that the publishers have you between a rock and a hard place. If you want digital only, you can only get it in one place.
Right, exactly. And it's something to think about, especially with the future of the industry. It seems like they're copping out behind the fact that they're saying this is a way to combat piracy. This is a way to combat used sales, which are valid, I guess. But
This didn't seem to be a problem 10 years ago when we were just trading games between
Right.
each other.
right, this was not a problem 10 years ago before the internet took off and was huge.
Online play was the problem.
Right. Like why can't I play people across the U.S.? Because the internet isn't huge yet.
Now it's like, why can't I play people in Europe?
Curse you, internet. So, with that out of the way, the next thing we're going to talk about is special editions of video games. Special editions, collector's editions, limited editions, whatever you want to call them. What makes them worth the cost to you?
I think it takes a lot for it to be worth the cost. I mean, I'm already shelling out $60, and in a lot of cases, you're talking about 10 hours or less of gameplay.
Right.
And then, these items that are just going to sit there collect dust, i.e. the plasma cutter from Dead Space 2,
Right.
the dragon thing from Skyrim.
Right.
That was $150.
Yeah.
I can't justify that.
Right. Well, Skyrim, Dead Space, World of Warcraft is pretty well known for their collector's
Oh yeah,
editions.
those are always like $100, right?
Yeah, those are always $100, and I really don't know. I mean, where do you draw the line and what's worth it and what's not? I mean, a lot of the times games cost $10 to $20 more. If it's not a AAA title, it's $10 to $20 more.
Oh, if it's a AAA title, it's a lot more.
It's a lot more, yeah. Mirror's Edge had a special edition when that came out, where you got a messenger bag, and it was $20 more for a messenger bag, and it's not even that big.
Yeah, the same thing happened when Resident Evil 5 came out. They had the collector's edition
Right.
that was like $90. It had that
Right.
toad or whatever, and then it had a bunch of other stuff, but not $30 worth of stuff.
Right. And a lot of the times it's like, oh, here special edition has a soundtrack. It's $10 more for a soundtrack.
You're like, and you're thinking, all right, I'm finally
Right.
gonna get a CD. I'm not
Right.
gonna steal this.
Right. I don't have to go on the internet and go into the deep dark corners and find where this is at.
No, but then you end up, it gets closer and closer to release date. You find out it's a digital download.
Right. It's not even a physical CD.
And then you actually go to download,
Right.
and the site wasn't prepared for the traffic.
Right.
They didn't think about it.
Right.
The thing happened with Dark Souls when they released it with the strat. Well,
The
their
art book,
so and so strategy guide. It actually came with the art book, I think.
Okay.
But they were never prepared
Right.
to give you the soundtrack or the guide. So what ended up happening was I just went and downloaded the soundtrack elsewhere because it was weeks before they finally got their stuff together.
Yeah, the site was down and so impacted for so long you really couldn't get it.
Well, but this isn't a small publisher deal either because the same thing actually happened when Red Dead Redemption came out.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
You couldn't get the soundtrack, and I
Right.
may have done a similar sort of thing to actually get that.
Right. So I mean, there's got to be enough to justify the cost. There's no way in hell I'm going to spend more than $90 on a collector edition of a video game.
Well, let's talk about. Let's use the case of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. When Marvel vs. Capcom 3 first came out, they had a special edition. It was what, $70?
I think so. Yeah.
70, 70 or something like that. But it came with the codes for the two DLC characters. Do you think that's okay? I mean, basically, they put a price tag on the characters.
On the characters, yeah. Well, I mean, the characters debuted with a $5 price tag on each of them.
That's kind of a lot for.
Well, yeah, for two characters that aren't even tournament viable anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever tournament viable.
But I mean, it came with that, but it also came with the
Art book?
subscription and the art book. The subscription to Marvel, the Marvel online comic database thing,
Mm-hmm.
where you can go through and read however many Marvel comics you
Oh, the
wanted.
backstories on all the characters,
Yeah.
like all you wanted to know.
Right, and I thought that was a good way to do it, especially since it was only $10 more.
So $10 to $20 seems to be the magical price point.
Right, and especially if it comes with a lot of stuff. If you just give me a CD and charge me $10 more, I'm not going to be as inclined to get it as if you give me a CD and, like, say, a map.
What about the Tron one? It came with that light bike. It was like $150.
Yeah, see, that's way too much money for me. I don't even if it comes with a light bike, like,
It was like, who bought Tron?
right,
And then they're gonna buy the light bike?
right. No, I don't think so. I think $10 to $20 is the key point.
Okay, let's move on to. We're getting to the last couple topics that are gonna take us a long time because they're really controversial to us.
It's true.
But the first one we're gonna hit is, where are RPGs going? Basically, the traditional sense of what we think is an RPG is dying.
Right.
You know, your JRPG, your Final Fantasy, your turn-based strategy games, they're dying, and these Western RPGs that seem to be mixing genres are taking over.
Yes.
Your Mass Effect, your Borderlands. They're
Skyrim.
selling so many copies.
Well, Skyrim outsold every exclusive game. Like, every console exclusive game, Skyrim outsold. Doesn't matter what the game was. But Skyrim outsold it completely.
It's on 3 platforms.
It's on, yeah, I know. But it's just something to think about. It's a Western RPG that's outselling everything. RPGs typically don't do that well.
But I barely think that Skyrim is an RPG anymore. Like, you're building a character, but it doesn't really matter all that much if you're playing the game on higher than, like, easy.
Right. But, I mean, you can extend that argument to anything. I mean, you could say that if you're building a character, a game's an RPG, right? I mean, just at the ground level, you're building up a character and your game's an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
What about like those football management games or those soccer management games where you're building up a whole team?
You mean your FIFA, your Madden, where you're actually building characters
Right.
from like the beginning?
You're building up your players from the very beginning. Could that technically be an RPG?
I guess it does qualify, and it might be getting to the point where those are more of an RPG than what we consider RPGs anymore. Where people are clamoring that they're so happy that, you know, Mass Effect 3 is coming out. That game's barely an RPG anymore.
Yeah, I really don't know if I'd call it an RPG. It's an action game
Yeah,
with shooter elements.
No matter what class you use, okay, you'll use some abilities, but the majority of the game you're going to be running around with a gun shooting things.
Right. I think it's a third-person shooter with RPG elements. I think that's the way to classify Mass Effect at this point.
I think I would basically have a better time playing a Halo or something for that sort of thing.
Right.
Mass Effect has done a good job of riding the middle ground between two genres. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay with it.
Well, I think the key point in any RPG is having an intricate and overblown main plot. I mean, you can play Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
That game has a pretty intricate plot, and it's full of these what the fuck moments.
But it's not technically
But
an
it's-
RPG because you're not building
Well,
Snake.
right? It's a shooter. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a stealth based shooter. I mean, but in an RPG, you've got this huge intricate plot, but it's also overarching.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and you're building these characters from the ground up.
right? And I think there are key themes in an RPG that these other games don't have. And I
Right.
think it's that character development. When you're playing Metal Gear Solid, there's really not a lot of character development.
Snake's kind of a
I mean-
badass, and he kind of does some badass stuff.
Right. And like, okay, Otacon pisses himself in a locker, and then he talks about love on the battlefield. and then by the end of the series, he's kind of grown into his own. That's some character development. I'll give it that. But it's not as
These are
grandiose.
multiple games, like,
Right.
where you're developing who the Snake character actually is.
And it's not as grandiose as, say, Hope in Final Fantasy 13.
Well, if you started the next one, you realize that he has a much more major role.
Right.
Like, he's basically responsible for saving most of humanity.
Right.
Like, he's after Cocoon Falls, he takes the helm at rebuilding stuff on Pulse.
Pulse, right. But spoiler warning, by the way. That was spoiler.
If you haven't started playing, it's your fault.
It's true. The second game has come out. We can talk about the first one, so it's fine. But I think I think the big point of RPGs is seeing a ton of character development. You get to see Hope go from this whiny kid who wants to kill this guy because he thought he killed his mom, all the way into this.
He's an adult.
He's still a kid, but he's an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see that happen over the course of the story, and I think that's the key in RPGs. Western RPGs haven't hit on that character development yet.
It's you're the same guy the entire time.
Right.
It's just things are happening to you, but you're
Right.
still the same guy at the end of the day.
It's how I think the Western RPGs are more of a choose your own adventure type of story.
Yeah, because you're essentially melding the story to who you are,
Right.
instead of having the story told to you.
Right. Whereas JRPGs are more, here's a novel, go read it.
Yeah.
Western RPGs are more like, here's, turn to page 32 if you want to kill this guy.
Well, at the same time, it's that choose your own adventure sort of RPG that basically kills the story. Having that much ability to craft the story
Right.
really affects it.
Right. And you can even be as fickle as you want, which would, and the problem that I have with Western RPGs is that your actions most of the time have no bearing on the story. I mean, you can play Mass Effect 1 and 2, and you can go, is it Paragon and what's the other one?
Renegade?
Renegade, yeah, Paragon and Renegade. And sure, it affects your dialogue options. But what else does it really do?
The same sort of story elements happen. There's that one choice in the first one, right, with the bugs or whatever?
There's the choice with the bugs, there's the choice with Rex, and there's the choice with Legion.
Okay, so 3 choices.
Yeah, that really, really affects gameplay. But other than that...
But that's over the course of the games.
Right.
This isn't in one game.
Right. And, I mean, other than that, there's really not a whole lot of character development. And it's really just left up to you to decide whatever the hell you want to do. You can play a hero, you can play a badass.
You can play the heroic badass.
Or you can play the heroic badass. But I don't know, I think that's the issue, is that there's not enough real character development in Western RPGs. It's all left up to the player.
Well, at the same time, people are complaining. Like, the biggest complaint about the Final Fantasy games is that they're basically hallways now because they're telling you the story,
Right.
but you want to have all these options, and so you don't get a good story. You can't
Right.
have it both ways.
I think you can. I think you can have it both ways.
I think that's only the job of the AAA titles, though. They're the only ones with that sort of budget.
Wouldn't you consider Final Fantasy a AAA title?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that that's the main game they're complaining about.
Right.
Like, you have to find the middle ground, and the middle ground's not there.
Right. Well, I mean, I think if you look at past Final Fantasy games, they have towns you can explore. They have, it's really not linear until you get to a dungeon.
Yeah, they added a lot of stuff in the
I haven't played 13 too, so
yeah, there's more towns. There's only one merchant, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. But I think people, they want that atmosphere built. They don't want to just be running down a hallway, just like in 13. I mean, it opens up when you get to pulse.
Well, I think that an important thing is that it can be a hallway. Just developers need to not give the player the time to realize that that's what they're doing.
It's a hallway, yeah.
Like, you can add all this stuff in the background, and they don't understand that it's a hallway. Like, you made a hallway, but it's a pretty hallway.
But there's paintings on the walls.
There's enough to distract them.
Right.
And I think that's what needs to happen. Like, if RPGs are going to continue that way, people need to have interaction so they feel like they're impacting the story at some point when they're really not.
I really think Western RPGs and JRPGs need to start combining their two methodologies.
Well, another thing to note is that Western RPGs are big here.
Right.
But JRPGs still sell well in Japan and
That's
Europe.
True. That's true.
So maybe it's just a reflection of what American players really want.
Right. And that's a good point too. I mean, personally, I'm a fan of both. I still love turn-based RPGs, and I still love, I played the hell out of Skyrim. I love that game. But I still really enjoyed Lost Odyssey. It took me a while, but I enjoyed Final Fantasy 13. It took me a while to get into it.
Well, let's bring this back to Skyrim. Like, you enjoyed it, but isn't it more of an adventure game?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, you're still building a character from nothing. You start out in prison about to be executed, and then you come up and you become. I want to spoil the game for everybody, but you come up and if you haven't played it by now, I'm sorry.
So spoiler alerts.
Yeah,
There's
spoiler
dragons.
alert.
There's dragons.
There's dragons, and you kill them.
If you haven't seen a TV in the past 6 months,
Right, or the internet. But you go from being just some dude who was in the wrong place at the wrong time that's going to be executed
To Dovahkiin.
to this guy that just saved the world. I mean, you see that character development in Skyrim.
I haven't actually beat it.
Yeah, you should get on that. I just spoiled it for you, but you should get on that. I mean, they hit that character development on the head.
I just think that the whole mission structure was a little bit lacking. It seems like they gave you missions just to give you missions.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
They're basically using the MMO thing. Where,
Right.
I'll go here, kill this guy.
Go here, kill this guy, come back with this item. Go here, kill this guy, come back with this item. It's true. Yeah, it's a bit of a grind.
But it's not even just the Assassin's Guild, because that's what it's like in, the Companions Guild, the Fighters Guild.
Right.
Or the Mages.
Right. It's what it's like in all of them. It's what it's like in the main storyline, too. Go here, talk to these people, come back. Go here, solve this problem, come back.
Well, I think people don't understand that that's not a great story.
No, it's true.
You think it's a great story because you've spent so much time.
Right. You spend a lot of time in it and doing it.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I've talked to so many people.
Right.
You didn't talk to anybody. You didn't pay attention to what was going on.
You just found out what quest you had to do and when.
Yeah.
Where you had to go.
How am I supposed to pay attention to the story when I have, 40 open quests?
Right. It's what you do in MMOs, too. You go to a quest giver, you accept the quest, you find out what you have to do and go do it.
Yeah, but you're not... You've played WoW since launch. I'm sure you don't even look.
Oh, no,
the things are
no. No. I did when Cataclysm launched and revamped everything. I did.
You're like, oh, I have a new quest.
But as soon as I got over the new stuff, I was like, no, just accept go. So to wrap up the show, we're going to talk about Columns of the Modern Gamer again.
I thought this wasn't going to be a reoccurring thing, but I came up with more ideas than I had expected.
We can make it a recurring thing.
I guess it's good to jump into this one after having what we just discussed, but the problem is, are our standards too high for what makes a great game?
I mean, what we're seeing. I mean, look at God of War, Asura's Wrath, those kinds of games, for example. We're seeing a shorter time on these games, like 5 to 6 hours to beat them.
Well, God of War was like 13?
No, not even. You can beat that game in a couple hours if you know what you're doing.
Well, you're gonna watch it. Yeah, just the cutscenes though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still.
Well, I thought we were talking about 3. Like you can beat the other ones.
Oh no. But I mean, what we're expecting is a lot of time put forward in the game for us to play through. A great story with good gameplay, and if it's got multiplayer, it better have a good multiplayer.
Like, is that asking too much?
Right. I mean, are we wrong in wanting these things? Like, am I wrong in wanting a game that's going to last me at least 12 hours?
Or even when it's like, your first-person shooters where nobody plays the campaign.
Right.
Like, they only care about the multiplayer.
I'll be honest. I picked up Call of Duty and Battlefield. I don't know what the story is.
Yeah, I actually watched somebody else beat it.
I just jumped right into the multiplayer. I was like, screw it, we're gonna go into this thing head first. But I mean, I don't know. Same thing with Black Ops. When I picked that up, didn't touch the campaign. Went right into multiplayer.
Like, hey, I can kill zombies.
Yeah, zombies. Let's kill some zombies. But I mean, I think we're seeing multiplayer games become more valuable than single player games.
But what is it? Like, it's that you can play with your friends, right? But
right.
When it comes to games that are more focused on the multiplayer, all of your Call of Duty, your Battlefield, where the campaign is only 4 to 6 hours in most cases,
right? And
they focus completely on the multiplayer. Shouldn't the campaign story be more important?
You would think so. You would think that would be the selling point. But I think what people like is the ability to prove their skills online and trash talk other players. Hey, you suck. I'm better than you. I'm going to teabag you.
Oh my god!
I think that's what players. It happens in fighting games too. Like, people will stand over your body after they defeated you with the KO screen and crouch over and over and over. And it's like, dude, come on.
Look at my EP,
right?
Look at it.
And then if you beat them, they send you a message saying you have no life. It's a lose-lose situation.
For an Xbox Live, it's a voice message.
It's a voice message. It says they're going to hunt you down and kill you. And then you report them, and that's that.
But I guess maybe it has to do with how we are valuing what we're spending anymore.
Right.
You're spending $60 on a game that let's assume at the high end we'll say between 6 and 10.
Right.
6 and 10 hours for $60.
Is that worth it? $10 an hour? I mean,
That's more than a movie.
Right. I think though, Marvel. If you look at Marvel, they release one game for $60. 8 months later, they release a patch, essentially on disc for $40. But the way a lot of people were justifying it to themselves, myself included, was that you get 12 new characters for $40 and a brand new game engine.
Yeah, but
game
they
engine's not
essentially
even
got
brand
you
new.
for they got you for like $110.
Right, in an 8-month span. And they did the same thing with Street Fighter. They released Street Fighter, they released Super Street Fighter 4, they released
Super Street Fighter
4 Arcade Edition.
and then 2012. Like, now
But that was free.
Yeah, that
2012 was free. 2012 was free. But I mean, the way they set up Marvel, the way Marvel 3 came out was wrong.
They didn't wait long enough. Like, everybody knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And you're like, Capcom can't be
Capcom
that big
wouldn't
of
do
a
that.
scumbag,
They
can
wouldn't
they?
do that. Oh, of course they did. Of course they did.
Oh, by the way, at E3 we announced that Super Street Fighter.
Right.
Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom is coming.
Yeah. And then Cross Tekken's coming out.
Next 2 weeks.
Super Cross Tekken's going to come out by the end of the year. Watch.
It's going to call Ultra Cross Tekken.
Ultra Street Fighter Cross Tekken coming out by the end of the year.
I don't know. I don't even know how I feel about that. But Capcom...
It's such a money grab.
Well, EA does the same thing too, but is it
yeah.
because they have such a large market share?
I mean, we talked about it last week. These games are being released more and more quickly, and they're essentially the same game with the reskin.
Yeah.
Just like Guitar Hero. And they're
Or
going
the Madden games.
Or the Madden game, those every year. But those still sell really well. I don't understand. But you're getting a rehash every year, and they're going to go through the Guitar Hero effect, where people are just going to stop buying it.
Hasn't happened to Call of Duty yet. I'm waiting for it, though.
I'm waiting for it. Yeah,
I'm waiting for that thing to die, so all you bros don't have a game to play.
It's gonna happen. It's fun. I'll admit it. I'm not a bro, but it's fun.
Mm.
I don't like sit there and teabag people or trash talk a lot, but I'll. Granted, if somebody's sniping and I sneak up behind them, I'll send them a message before I kill them. Be like, "Hey, you should watch your back," and stab them. And that feels pretty good sometimes, especially if the guy's been sitting there the whole game.
You're like, hey, what's that?
Hey, look behind you.
Damn. Most of what we've been complaining about has been relative to game time, but
Right.
I think the important thing to note is that the games that are having more story elements are actually becoming a lot longer.
Right.
Let's say, 10 years ago, an RPG would be, 50 hours or so, 40, 50. Now it's still about the same, as opposed to other games where the campaign length has actually gone down.
Right.
Where is the middle ground on this? Because, 60 hours, that's $1 an hour. And even if you're buying a game for the multiplayer, most of the time these people are only playing multiplayer to play with their friends.
Right.
So...
I'd buy anything at $1 an hour.
I hate to see I hate to see your internet history. I don't know, but are these RPGs, with their 40, 50 hour plus storylines better than these short games where essentially the story is an afterthought?
Right. I mean, well, it's the same thing we talked about earlier. How do you justify spending your money on a game?
I don't buy shooters. I don't buy games with short campaigns anymore. I wait for you to buy them.
Yeah, I'll pretty much buy anything that looks good. Shooters included. I mean, if I try to stay really far away from the hype, but sometimes it gets to me.
Sometimes those subliminal messages on the TV get to you.
It's just like, buy our game now, done. Let's go. Let's spend the $60, $63 here, I think. After tax and everything. But I don't know, a game, it's got to have tight controls. It's got to look pretty. At this point, it's got to look pretty.
I think it's hard to not look good. Most of the reason these games are failing lately is because the gameplay is terrible.
Right. They concentrate so much more on graphics that the gameplay is absolutely horrible. The controls aren't tight.
Oh, what was the game that Never Dead came out, and that game was getting under 60 reviews.
Right.
And if you had seen any of the cutscenes from the past year, the game looks great.
Right, yeah, it looks gorgeous.
But, a little bit of a gameplay problem is going to screw you over.
Right. And the Darkness 2, I think, doesn't look pretty. I mean, it doesn't look as good as it could.
Yeah, but
it looks fine.
But it gives you those fun elements
right.
that you want.
It gives you the fun elements that you want, which I think is why it's doing okay. And the story isn't bad. I mean, you're a whiny emo kid complaining about your dead girlfriend, but...
Hey, you want me to find your girlfriend and kill her, and we'll see how emo you are?
See
if you surrender to the darkness. The devil shows up and just slides the Linkin Park CD towards you.
Oh, crawling, yes. But I think you need a good combination of all three of those elements: story, gameplay, and graphics. You can have the prettiest game out there, but nobody's going to play it if the controls are crap.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But what do you think? I heard on a podcast recently, Cheap Ass Gamer, they advocated splitting the multiplayer and the campaign up
I don't.
into separate releases because some people are only going to play the campaign and they're not playing the multiplayer, a la Call of Duty.
Right.
Some people actually are interested in the campaign.
Right.
Should they have to pay $60 for 6-hour campaign?
I think that's a dangerous road to go on. I think that if you split up the campaign and the multiplayer, you're going to see campaign sales fall. You're not going to. I mean, the multiplayer sales are going to skyrocket, while the campaign sales are not going anywhere.
They already did that.
I know.
They did that with World of Warcraft.
I know, and I think that's a problem. I think if you end up splitting up the campaign from the multiplayer, you're going to see the campaign disappear entirely.
But wasn't Call of Duty born out of Counter-Strike, right?
I
Wasn't it a mod?
have no idea.
Well,
I know Counter-Strike's a mod from Half-Life.
okay. Well, people only really want the multiplayer option. I think that them spending money on developing a campaign that nobody's really going to play is a mistake.
I don't know. I think enough people will play it, but enough people wouldn't buy it. How could you justify spending $60 on a 4-hour campaign? You couldn't.
You spent $60 on a 6-hour campaign.
I did. If it was any less than that, I wouldn't. If a 4-hour campaign with no multiplayer option, with no replayability, if you're playing a shooter and you buy a campaign, you've got one road to go down.
You can beat on harder difficulty.
You could, but what if you start playing on a harder difficulty?
It's really hard.
It is. I've done it. I do it.
I don't know what. It just seems like they need an option. Like I bought Killzone. I only wanted to play I bought Killzone 3. Right. I didn't buy Killzone 3 for the multiplayer. I just wanted to see the story.
Right.
But I paid $60. At least I guess I didn't pay. I think it's $130 for that Hellgast helmet.
Yeah, it was. That you put on a cat. Yeah.
Yeah, I played with it at Fish's house. It actually looks really cool, but I wouldn't have paid that much.
Right. See, he's another guy that buys these collector's edition games.
Yeah, but they just sit.
They just sit there and collect dust. Yeah.
I don't know.
You can see my crab back here, and it's just doing the same thing. Collecting dust.
It's for somebody. I mean, they wouldn't make it if somebody wasn't going to buy it.
It's true. I know enough people are buying it. I guess so they keep doing it.
Well, when 13.2 came out, I had the choice of whether or not to get the collector's edition, and it just came with soundtrack, and I can't remember what else, because you got some bonus item, and I just got the code.
Right.
But the soundtrack isn't enough.
Right.
I could just download that.
It is definitely not enough.
I don't advocate piracy.
No, do not. But no, I think you're right, and I mean. The game industry is changing, and I still don't know if it's for the better or for the worse yet.
I think as long as Call of Duty is the best-selling game,
It's
and its candidate for Game of the Year is retarded.
yeah, that's beyond me. You have fun multiplayer, game of the year.
Game of the Year, the story is shit and doesn't make sense.
Right.
Battlefield 2.
Right.
And I think Battlefield's multiplayer was better.
I personally enjoy Battlefield much more. It's not as actiony.
It's not one-man army.
Yeah, you're not a one-man army in Battlefield. You need to be coordinated. You can be the guy that's like, why aren't there any planes on this map when there's no planes on the map? And then people
I
will be
wanted
like,
to fly a plane.
The only reason I bought this game was to fly planes.
Maybe you should have bought Flight Simulator. But I wanted a gun.
But
Terrorist Simulator.
So, on that note, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Last Save Point. I'm Calic Ninja.
I'm Piro.
Thanks for watching.
Happy gaming.